The Westpac Melbourne Institute Index of Consumer Sentiment increased by 1.5% in July. The survey was taken over the period July 5 to July 9, when Sydney was in lockdown and restrictions were prevalent in regional New South Wales. But it came before the tightening of restrictions that were announced late on July the 9th. The Sydney Sentiment Index was down 13.6% and New South Wales overall was down 10.2%. So why did the index not fall substantially? Well, it was fully offset by strong rises in the other states, in particular Victoria, that was up 10.5%, and Western Australia 15%. And we know, of course, that Victoria and Western Australia that were down sharply in June rebounded in their confidence once their economies reopened after the lockdowns that they experienced. We have to be prepared for the possibility that the indexes will fall further in New South Wales, and of course that will depend upon the length of the lockdown, whether we see more extreme tightenings of conditions, and we will see how that plays out over the next few weeks. The Reserve Bank Board next meets on August the 3rd. We don't expect any change in policy settings after we saw the major changes in the July board meeting, but we will see their adjusted forecasts for the economy. They'll have 3 more weeks to assess the extent of the lockdown and whether there are further tightenings in New South Wales, and of course whether the virus spreads to other states. But at this stage I think they'll be seeing things in a similar light to the factors that Westpac is looking at the moment in terms of the overall impact of the lockdown. The first point is that we've learned from lockdowns, as we saw in Victoria and Western Australia in today's survey, is that once the lockdowns finish, you have a very strong rebound. So if we do see some loss of activity in the September quarter, a lot of that can be expected to be gained back in the December quarter. We've also seen a strong response from government in supporting jobs, and whilst not quite as generous as the JobKeeper package of $750 a week, the $600 has still been well received. Other factors that are going to be important in assessing the impact on the national economy will be the booming conditions we're seeing in other states at the moment, and of course the very strong momentum that New South Wales enjoyed as we went into the lockdowns. And we have to remember that most retail is still open in New South Wales and construction sites are still open as well. So these are factors that we'll look at in terms of assessing the overall impact of the current lockdowns on the economy. But of course there are downside risks, most importantly potential for the spreading of the Delta strain to other states.